David was tired. Not just the kind of tired that sleep could fix, but the kind that comes from life always beating you down. That evening, as he walked home, barely selling any fruit, all he could think about was how empty his stomach felt. And not just his stomach, his wallet too. Actually, he didn't even have a wallet. Just some coins in his pocket that couldn't even buy bread. He was passing a quiet path near the bus stop when something caught his eye. A wallet. A very thick wallet. He looked around quickly, nobody. He picked it up slowly, almost afraid. Opened it and inside was cash. Lots of neatly folded notes. His fingers started shaking. His heart raced. He hadn't seen that kind of money in years. For a second, everything went quiet. Just him, the wallet, and 100 thoughts rushing through his head. David sat on a low wall and stared at the money. It had to be at least $5,000, maybe more. It was enough to pay his rent, buy food, get his little sister some school shoes, and maybe even fix the broken door in their one-room house. But deep inside the wallet, behind the notes, he saw something else, an ID card. Michael Thompson. That was the name. A clean photo. Guy looked fancy, like someone who worked in a bank or one of those big offices. There was also a business card. Executive Director. City Holdings Group. David let out a slow breath. This wasn't some street guy's money. This belonged to someone important. He looked at the cash again, then at the ID. Then back at the cash. His stomach growled. But something in his heart said, "Don't touch it." He stood up slowly, still holding the wallet. People passed him on the street, minding their own business. He could have just walked home. Nobody would know. Nobody saw him pick it up. But he couldn't shake his mom's voice from his head. "David, you weren't raised to take what's not yours, even if you're hungry." She'd been gone for years now. But that voice, he still heard it when things got hard. He sighed and looked around. Then he spotted a small sign down the road. Lakeview Restaurant. It looked like the kind of place someone like Michael Thompson would eat at. Maybe he dropped it there. David started walking. The restaurant was about 2 miles away, and David had already walked nearly 4. His legs were heavy, and his slippers were falling apart. The sun had almost gone down, and his back was sticky with sweat. He stopped once or twice to rest on the side of the road, but something kept pushing him forward. By the time he reached the place, his shirt was soaked, and his throat was dry. He wiped his face with his sleeve and walked up to the security guard at the entrance. The security guard looked him up and down like he didn't belong there. "You lost, boss?" "No, sir," David said politely. "I found this wallet. I think someone who ate here today might have dropped it. Name is Michael Thompson." The guard raised his eyebrows. "Are you serious?" David just nodded. The guard told him to wait outside and took the wallet inside. David stood there, wondering if they'd even come back. He looked down at his cracked slippers and the dust on his trousers. He didn't feel like someone who would be allowed near rich people. After a few minutes, a man came out wearing a clean white shirt and gray trousers. His shoes were shining. It was the same face from the ID. He looked calm but curious. "You found this?" he asked. David nodded. "Yes, sir. It was near the market. You didn't take anything?" "No, sir. It's all there." The man looked at him for a few seconds, like he was trying to figure him out. Then he reached into his pocket and brought out his phone. "Give me your number," he said. David blinked. "Sorry, your phone number," the man repeated. "Please." David hesitated, and then gave it. The man typed it in, nodded once, and said, "Thank you." David didn't think much of it. Maybe it was just a kind way to say thanks. He turned around and started the long walk home. His stomach was still empty. His pockets still light. But for some reason, his heart felt full. When David got home, it was already dark. The power had been cut again, so his little sister, Grace, was sitting on the floor with a candle and her homework. The room smelled like wet clothes and kerosene, and the wind whistled through the crack in their door. She looked up and smiled. "Did you get anything today?" she asked hopefully. David shook his head and forced a small smile. "Not today, but soon. Don't worry." He didn't tell her about the wallet. Not yet. What was there to say? He had returned it, and that was that. They shared some porridge, the only thing left in the house, and went to bed early. But David stayed up, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd made a mistake. Wondering if doing the right thing really ever paid off. The next morning, David woke up to a strange sound. His phone was ringing. Nobody ever called him except Grace's teacher or his old friend Musa. He picked up without checking. "Hello, David?" the voice asked. It was deep and clear. "Yes, this is David. This is Michael Thompson." David sat up. His heart started beating faster. I've been thinking about what you did, Michael continued. It shocked me. In a good way. Most people wouldn't return that kind of money, especially someone in your situation. David didn't know what to say. He rubbed his forehead and muttered, I just thought it was the right thing. Michael paused. Then he said, Can we meet? Come to my office this afternoon. David swallowed hard. Your office? Yes. I'll send you the location. Michael responded. He hung up. David looked at himself in the cracked mirror by the door. He couldn't go to a big office looking like this. His shirt had a hole in the collar, and his trousers were faded and dusty. He rushed to Musa's place 2 blocks away. Musa was the kind of friend who never had money but always had style. David explained everything quickly, and Musa just stared at him. Wait, you mean you found a wallet full of cash, returned it, and now the guy is calling you to his office? David nodded. Musa scratched his head. Man, you're either about to get blessed or scammed. They both laughed. Musa handed him a clean shirt and a better pair of shoes. Go. And whatever happens, act confident. You deserve good things too. David had never been inside a building like this before. The floors were shiny. The air smelled like lemon polish and coffee. Everyone he passed was dressed in suits, walking fast, talking into phones. The receptionist smiled when he gave his name and pointed him to the elevator. His hands were sweating. He kept adjusting the borrowed shirt. When the elevator doors opened, Michael Thompson was standing right there, waiting. He wasn't smiling, but his face looked kind. Thanks for coming, he said, shaking David's hand firmly. Come in. David followed him into a large office with big windows and soft chairs. He sat at the edge of one, unsure if he should relax or sit straight. I won't waste your time, Michael said. I'm starting something new. A foundation for young people who are honest but struggling. David raised his eyebrows, confused. I want you to be part of it, Michael said. I want to help you get on your feet. David blinked. Sir, I don't understand. Why me? Michael leaned back in his chair. Because what you did told me everything I needed to know about the kind of person you are. Most people would have walked away with that money. You didn't. He pulled out an envelope from his drawer and handed it to David. For the first time in a long time, he felt something strange in his chest. Hope. David didn't go straight home. He walked for a while, just thinking. He kept checking the envelope, like maybe it would disappear. It felt unreal. Someone actually saw him. Not just saw, but rewarded him. Not for working hard, not for begging, but for simply doing the right thing. He sat on a bench outside a small kiosk, bought a bottle of soda, and just sat there smiling to himself. He didn't even notice the sun going down. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long while, he wasn't afraid of the future. When David got home, Grace ran to the door. You're late. Where did you go? She asked, hugging him. David hugged her back tightly. I have good news. He didn't tell her everything right away. He just handed her some money and said, We're paying the rent tomorrow, and you're getting new school shoes. Her eyes widened. Are you serious? Where did you get this? He smiled. Remember the wallet I found? The owner came through. He helped. Grace didn't say anything at first. Then she hugged him again. Mom would be so proud of you. That hit him right in the chest. He closed his eyes and held her close. I hope so. The next day, David returned to Michael's office. This time, he wasn't wearing borrowed clothes. He'd cleaned up his best shirt and fixed the loose button himself. When he walked into the lobby, he still felt out of place, but this time he walked with his head a little higher. Michael welcomed him again, offered him tea, and smiled warmly. I've been thinking. We could use someone like you on the ground. You know what it means to struggle. I want you to help us find other young people who need support, people who are honest like you. David didn't even know how to respond. You mean work here? Not just here, Michael said. With the foundation, you'll be part of something that changes lives. And we'll train you too. Give you proper skills. Are you in? David nodded slowly. I'm in. David had just finished organizing files in the small outreach office when the security guard walked in. There's a man at the gate asking for you, the guard said, scratching his head. He says he's related to Mr. Thompson. David wiped his hands and stepped outside. A tall, older man stood waiting by the gate. His skin was weathered, and his coat looked like it had been through many seasons. His eyes narrowed as he looked at David. So this is the famous honest man, the man said with a dry smile. You're David, right? David nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Can I help you? The man chuckled bitterly. No, son. I think I'm the one who should be asking you that. The man introduced himself as Collins, Michael's older brother. They sat under the mango tree near the back of the building, away from the noise of the office. I heard about what you did, Collins began. Returning that wallet was a noble thing. Only problem is, it wasn't Michael's wallet. It was mine. David's face twisted in confusion. Wait, what do you mean? Collins leaned back on the bench, sighing. Michael borrowed cash from me that night. I dropped the wallet on the way to his place. Next thing I know, he's praising some young hero who found it. David's heart pounded. But he told me it was his. Collins shrugged. He didn't lie, technically. But he left out the part where that money wasn't his to begin with. That night, David sat on the floor, elbows on his knees, staring into space. Grace was doing her homework nearby, but even she noticed something was off. You okay? She asked gently. David nodded without speaking. But his thoughts were spinning. Had everything, his job, the help, the foundation, been some sort of test? Would Michael have helped him if it hadn't been for the wallet? He didn't sleep. At sunrise, he sent a short message to Michael. We need to talk. By noon, they were sitting across from each other in Michael's office. You lied, David said quietly. Not with words, but with what you left out. Michael looked at him for a long moment. I wanted to see what kind of person you were. I didn't plan any of this, David. But once I met you, I knew you were someone who deserved more. Collins was already in the room when David arrived the next day. He looked calmer this time, arms crossed, but not as defensive. Michael slid an envelope across the table. Collins wanted to do this right. This is from him. No strings attached. David didn't even look at it. I'm not here for envelopes, he said, voice steady. I'm here because I believe in what we're building. If I've got a place here, let me earn it. Michael nodded slowly, a proud smile forming on his face. You already have. Collins gave a small nod of respect. You're different, David. Keep it that way. As David walked out of the office, the afternoon sun hit his face. The city felt noisy, alive, and unpredictable. But for the first time in a while, he didn't feel small in it. He felt solid, like he belonged there. Back in his neighborhood, people started talking. The landlord, who used to shout at David about late rent, now greeted him with a smile. The lady at the shop asked him where he got the money. Even Musa stared at him differently. You're working with a big man now, eh? Musa joked. David laughed. Something like that. He didn't brag, neither did he show off. But people noticed he walked differently now. He laughed more and ate better. Even his clothes looked cleaner. He'd always been quiet, always kept to himself, but now, people were starting to ask for his advice. Like he knew something they didn't. One afternoon, David was running a quick errand for the foundation, buying stationery from a small shop 2 streets from the office. As he was stepping out, a man bumped into him hard. Watch it, the man said. David turned, ready to apologize, but paused. The man's face was familiar. He had a scar across his cheek and crooked teeth. He didn't know his name, but he remembered his face. Years ago, David had seen him around the neighborhood. One of the rough older boys who used to hang out near the football pitch. They were trouble then, and judging by his sharp stare, nothing had changed. You're the guy from the papers, the man said, tilting his head. The one who returned the wallet. Fancy job now, yeah? David nodded cautiously. The man smiled, but there was no kindness in it. I've got a story about that wallet too. Want to hear it? David didn't want to hear it. But something in the man's tone made it clear. He wouldn't just walk away. I saw you that day, the man said. The day you found the wallet, I saw you pick it up. David's stomach tightened. I remember thinking, that guy's lucky. But then I heard you gave it back. I laughed for days. He stepped closer. But here's the thing, David. That wasn't the first wallet you found, was it? David froze. The man smirked. Don't worry. I haven't told anyone yet. But this new life of yours? It looks comfortable. Maybe it could stay comfortable, with a little help. David understood now. The man was blackmailing him. Over a mistake he had made long ago and tried to forget. Late that night, David sat alone in the dark, phone in hand, his heart pounding. He hadn't told anyone, not even Grace, about what happened years back. It was true. Once, when he was desperate and younger, he had found a wallet and kept it. It had only been a little money, and he'd used it to buy medicine when Grace was sick. But he'd carried guilt ever since. And now this stranger, this ghost from the past, had found a crack to crawl through. David wanted to pretend it wasn't happening. But he couldn't afford to be silent. Not again. He picked up his phone and dialed the one number that made his palms sweat. Michael listened quietly as David explained everything. The old mistake, the man at the shop, the blackmail. David expected anger or disappointment. But when he finished, Michael sat back and just looked at him. "You thought this would make me take it all back?" Michael asked. David lowered his head. "I just didn't want you to find out some other way." Michael nodded. "I'm not surprised you made a mistake when you were struggling. We all have things we're not proud of. What matters is who you chose to become after that." David looked up, surprised. "As for that man," Michael continued, "we'll handle it. You don't owe anyone anything from your past, except maybe yourself and your sister." David let out a long breath, chest lighter than it had felt in days. Not everything was lost. Not yet. A few weeks later, Michael invited David to a community event. They were launching the foundation officially, and he wanted David to speak. David stood in front of a small crowd, young men and women from tough backgrounds just like his. His palms were sweaty, but when he started talking, the words came naturally. "I know what it's like to have nothing," he said. "I know what it's like to be hungry, to be forgotten. But one small choice I made changed everything." He looked over at Michael, who gave him a proud nod. "This foundation isn't just about helping people," David said. "It's about reminding us that honesty still matters. That good people still win." The crowd clapped. Some even stood up. And David realized something right there. It wasn't just about the wallet anymore. He was becoming a voice for something bigger. David's days started to look different. Instead of walking around looking for odd jobs, he was visiting youth centers, schools, and small community groups. He was helping identify young people with big hearts but no opportunities, just like he had once been. He didn't wear suits or drive a car. He still lived in the same area, still used public transport. But people respected him now. Not for his money, but for what he represented. Honest beginnings. A second chance. Sometimes he would stop and just watch people go by, thinking how none of this would have happened if he had walked away with that wallet. One rainy afternoon, while he was helping at a food drive, someone tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around and saw an elderly woman holding an umbrella. She looked at him with teary eyes. "You don't know me," she said softly. "But my son does." David was confused. "Sorry, who's your son?" "Michael Thompson," she replied with a smile. "He told me everything you did and how you've helped him start this project." David's eyes widened. He didn't know what to say. She held his hand. "Thank you for bringing back my son's faith in people. After his father died, he didn't trust anyone. But your small act, it changed him." David blinked fast to stop the tears. He'd never thought his choice could touch people that far. Months passed and the foundation grew. They opened a small training center for job skills and mentoring. David wasn't just working there, he was leading a team. Every day, young people came in lost and unsure. And he helped guide them, one step at a time. Michael stayed involved, but he let David take more control. "You have the heart for this," he often said. "And that's what matters most." David never forgot where he came from. He still passed by the bench where he once sat holding that wallet. Sometimes he'd sit there quietly and just remember. Because some memories you carry with you forever. One morning, Michael called David into the office. He looked serious but calm. "I've had another offer to move abroad," Michael said. "It's a big position, something I've dreamed about." David smiled. "That's great, sir. I want you to take over the foundation," Michael said. David froze. "Me? You've been running things already. People trust you. And this was always about the community, not me." David felt a mix of emotions, honor, fear, excitement. "I don't have a degree," he said slowly. Michael leaned forward. "But you have something better. You have character. And that's why this started in the first place." A year after he found the wallet, David stood on a small stage at the foundation's anniversary event. Grace sat in the front row, proudly wearing her new school uniform. Musa was there too, still teasing, but now deeply proud. David told the story again. About the wallet, the hunger and the choice he made. He ended his speech simply. "I was just a hungry man who found a wallet. But that day, I found something else too. I found purpose. And I've learned that the right thing may not always be the easy thing, but it always leads somewhere better." The crowd stood and clapped. And as he looked out at their faces, David knew the truth. He had returned a wallet that day. But life had returned something much greater to him.